Welcome back to the deep dive. This is episode 2. And I think it's crucial right off the bat to set the expectations for what we're doing today.
Yes.
If you tuned in for our previous session, the one on February 15th, you'll know we started a very specific, and I have to say, a very difficult process.
It is.
We began a forensic analysis of a state apparatus. And I want to be really clear, this is not a standard discussion. We aren't sitting around a table debating geopolitics. We're not looking for hot takes. And we are certainly not looking for both sides of an atrocity. We are continuing a forensic audit.
Correct. We're not here to offer opinions.
Right.
We are not here to find balance or perspectives. When you're analyzing the structural failure of a bridge, you do not ask for the perspective of gravity.
No, you don't.
You analyze the stress fractures. You analyze the load-bearing capacity. Today, we are analyzing a machine.
And the machine we are looking at is the Russian war machine. But I have to say, based on the documentation we have on the table, calling it a military institution, that feels wrong.
It is inaccurate.
But I want to push back on that just for a second, because saying it's not a military institution, that sounds like hyperbole. I mean, we see the tanks, we see the missiles, we see the front line moving on the maps.
Of course.
It clearly functions as a military force, doesn't it? It occupies territory. It fights.
It functions as a force projector, yes. It occupies geography. But we are looking at the internal design.
Okay.
If you look at the incentives, how money moves, how promotions happen, how personnel are managed, it does not resemble a modern army.
How so?
An army is designed to preserve its combat power to achieve a strategic goal. This system, based on the evidence we have, is designed to consume its combat power.
To consume it?
Yes. To consume it to achieve financial goals for the mid-level commanders.
So you're saying the corruption isn't a bug in the system.
Yeah.
It's the operating system.
It's the primary function. The evidence suggests that the Russian war machine is, at its core, a predatory system. Its design is to convert human beings into revenue streams, disposable assets, and eventually into silence.
That is the thesis we are testing today, and we're going to test it by looking at the scope. In our last deep dive, we looked at how this system treats Ukrainian civilians, the outward aggression.
Correct.
Today, we are looking at how that same logic, that exact same brutality is turned inward. We are analyzing how the system eats its own.
The mechanism of predation is identical. That is the key takeaway for today.
The very same mechanism.
The violence used against a civilian in an occupied basement in Zaporizhia is structurally the same as the violence used against a Russian contract soldier in a trench near Donetsk. The target changes. The logic does not.
Okay. And to do this, we have a very specific stack of documents on the table. We have the findings from our previous investigation, the one into the torture systems, and the Regiment 1435 testimony.
Yes.
But the centerpiece for today is a new, really extensive interview. We are looking at the testimony of a defected officer, Oleg Miller. This comes from the investigation conducted by Khodorkovsky, Live-E, and the Dossier Center.
And before we open that file, we must reestablish the language rules. We do not use euphemisms here.
No.
We do not use the term SVO. It is a war. It is an unprovoked aggression. We do not call it enhanced interrogation. We call it torture. The system relies on linguistic fog to hide its mechanics.
And our job is to clear that fog.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's unpack the baseline. Before we get to Officer Miller, we need to briefly recap what we established in our last deep dive. We looked at the testimony of Junior Sergeant Denis Klesnikov from Regiment 1435. And the picture that emerged there was, it was terrifyingly transactional.
It was a marketplace of violence. Klesnikov's testimony established the existence of what they call the tariff.
The tariff. This was the subscription service for life, right?
Mm.
Can you walk us through that mechanic again? Because it really does set the stage for everything we're discussing today.
The logic is simple. A soldier receives his signing bonus or his salary from the state. That money appears on his card.
And the commander knows this.
The commander knows this money exists. The commander then sets a price. The testimony states it's usually between 1 and 3 million rubles. If the soldier pays this tariff,
he's kept in the rear. He's safe.
He's safe. If he does not pay or if he runs out of money, he is sent to the zero line.
The zero line being the absolute point of contact, the meat grinder.
Yes. But it's not just about danger from the enemy. It is about the administrative term we uncovered in the last session.
Zeroing.
Zeroing out.
Where?
In Russian, obnole. It sounds like accounting.
Yeah, it sounds like resetting a scoreboard or something.
Exactly. But in this context, it is the administrative term for internal murder.
And that was the real shock of the previous investigation for me. We're not talking about enemy fire. We're not talking about casualties of war in the, traditional sense.
No.
We're talking about commanders killing their own men because they ran out of money or because they complained.
Klesnikov testified that half of his squad was liquidated this way. And we saw that this wasn't just chaos or, a few rogue commanders. It was standardized.
How so?
The torture methods we analyzed, the call, using the field telephone, the salty fish method, these were uniform across different occupied territory.
Which means it's a procedure.
That uniformity proves we are looking at procedure, not an accident, not chaos.
So, to recap, violence is reproducible, extortion is standardized, and maybe most importantly, the system is a vacuum. There is no external law. The only law is the will of the commander standing right there in front of you.
That is the baseline. Now we layer on the new evidence.
Let's introduce Oleg Miller. This is a fascinating profile because he isn't some fresh-faced 19-year-old recruit.
No, he is a diagnostic tool.
A diagnostic tool? What do you mean by that?
Miller serves as a perfect control group because he has a 30-year gap in his service.
30 years.
He served in the Western Group of Forces back in the 1990s, then he left, and he only rejoined in February 2024.
So he remembers the old army, or at least what it was supposed to be. He has a point of comparison. He remembers the Soviet structure, or maybe the post-Soviet transition structure.
Exactly. When he arrives at the station in Totskoye in February 2024, he is expecting a military structure. He's expecting hierarchy, maybe some roughness, some dysfunction, sure, but a system that fundamentally works.
And
Instead, he walks into what he describes as a penal colony masquerading as a division.
He was assigned to the 27th Division. And the context of why this division even exists is important, isn't it? It wasn't some long-standing unit.
It is critical context. The testimony makes it clear. Miller notes that the 27th Division was being formed because the previous brigade stationed there had been completely annihilated.
Annihilated.
Nothing left, is his quote. No equipment, no people, just a crater in the organizational chart. So they were scraping the absolute bottom of the barrel to build a new formation from scratch.
And the people they scraped together, Miller doesn't mince words. He calls them rabble. But I want to be specific here. What does he mean by that? What kind of people are we talking about?
He identifies them primarily as alcoholics, drug addicts, and criminals. He describes standing in formation and looking at faces that are, in his words, not burdened by intellect.
Oh.
But it's more than that.
Mm-hmm.
He describes a physical degradation that is shocking even for a wartime army. These aren't just untrained men. Many of them are physically broken men before they even see a battlefield.
There is one specific detail from his testimony that I can't get out of my head. It's the Red Bull deaths.
Yes.
I want to pause on this because it sounds like an urban legend. You hear death by energy drink and you think of some teenager playing video games for 48 hours straight. But Miller is describing this happening in a military formation.
He is describing a physiological collapse at scale. You have to understand biology here to understand the system. These recruits are coming from deep provincial poverty. Many are chronic alcoholics, stage 2 or stage 3. Their bodies literally run on ethanol.
And then suddenly they're on a base where alcohol is banned. Or at least it's confiscated and controlled by the officers.
Exactly. So they hit immediate severe withdrawal, the shakes, the delirium. They're desperate for a stimulant to replace the depressant they've just lost. They can't get vodka, but the base commissary sells energy drinks.
And Miller describes pallets of them, not just a six-pack here and there.
Industrial quantities. And these men in withdrawal are drinking 10, 15, sometimes 20 cans a day.
My God.
They are flooding a cardiovascular system that is already severely weakened by decades of alcoholism with massive, massive doses of caffeine and taurine.
It's a chemical bomb going off inside their body.
And you take that man, you put him in a French at the training ground, you put 30 kilos of gear on him, you make him run.
And
Miller testifies that he watched men simply drop, just collapse. No shrapnel, no bullet. Their hearts just stopped.
It's just tragic. It's pathetic in the literal sense of the word. But it also tells you something profound about the command structure, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If I'm a commander and my men are dying of heart attacks in training, I stop the training. I clean up the supply chain. I do something.
You would, if you viewed them as soldiers.
Right.
If you viewed them as an investment you need to protect. But if you view them as meat, as the Russian slang terms them, miaso, then it doesn't matter.
How does it not matter?
If they die in the trench at Totskoye, it saves you the fuel of transporting them to the trench in Donetsk.
Mm-hmm.
The result for the system is the same. The commander looks at these men, these addicts, these desperate cases from the provinces, and he does not see soldiers. He sees hot pies.
Hot pies, that is the term Miller uses. It sounds so, I don't know, culinary, but it's purely economic, isn't it?
It is predatory economics.
Hey.
A hot pie is a new recruit who has just signed his contract. In the current Russian system, the signing bonuses are massive. Anywhere from 600,000 to over 1 million rubles, depending on the region and the time. These men arrive at the unit with that money sitting on their salary cards. They are literally hot off the press.
They are walking bank accounts.
And the commanders are hungry. Miller described the immediate extortion loop. The recruit arrives. Maybe he's never even held a machine gun in his life. The commander, or his sergeants, his enforcers, they approach him. The demand is brutally simple.
What is it?
Give me the money or you die.
And the threat isn't vague. It's not, you might have an accident. It's specific.
The threat is, if you do not transfer the money, you go to the meat assault immediately.
A meat assault.
You will be sent to the most dangerous sector of the front with minimal support, and you will not return. It is robbery at gunpoint. But the gun is the administrative power to deploy you to your certain death.
Miller talks about a specific case, the 506th Regiment. He mentions a commander with the call sign Anchor.
Yes. And this connects directly to the zeroing out mechanic we saw in the first investigation. Anchor is identified in the documentation as Colonel Albert Bulatov.
And what was happening there?
The testimony indicates that officers in this regiment were shooting soldiers. Not for desertion, not for cowardice, but simply for refusing to provide the PIN codes to their salary cards.
Wait, let's pause there. This is a critical detail. They weren't just extorting the bonus, a one-time payment. They were demanding the PNN code.
Oh, right.
So they could drain the entire account, the salary, everything.
Correct. The soldier is merely an obstacle between the officer and the soldier's bank account. If the soldier refuses to give up the PIN, the officer shoots him.
And that's zeroing out. Obnally. It's such a sterile, bureaucratic word. It sounds like something you do to a spreadsheet.
That is precisely why they use it. If you say, I'm going to shoot Private Ivanov in the back of the head because he won't give me his money, that is a crime. It's murder.
Right.
But if you say, I am going to zero out this asset, it becomes a procedure. It's an administrative action.
But walk me through the mechanics of that. How do they get away with it? You have a dead body. You have a bullet hole in the back of the head. That's not a combat wound.
But who is doing the autopsy?
There is no autopsy.
There is no autopsy on the front line. There is a report written by the very commander who pulled the trigger. He writes, KIA artillery strike, or stepped on a mine, or lost in action.
And because the body is often left behind or destroyed...
Miller describes them using grenades. This is part of the procedure.
What do you mean?
If you shoot a man, the wound is suspicious if the body is ever recovered. But if you toss a grenade into the dugout after you shoot him, well, that looks like combat.
So they're using forensic countermeasures against their own troops to cover up a murder for money.
It is a perfect closed loop of theft. The soldier is monetized while he is alive through extortion, and then his death is monetized to clear the books. The officer class functions as a cartel that has captured the state's military budget at the tactical level.
Okay, so this brings us to the hospital. Let's trace the life cycle of this hot pie.
If he survived.
Right, if he survives. So he survived the Red Bull overdose in training. He paid his bribe to the commander to avoid the first meat assault. Or maybe he didn't, and he got sent to the zero line and somehow, miraculously, survived. But he takes a piece of shrapnel to the leg.
Now he enters the next circle of the system.
And in any other army, even a dysfunctional one, this is the moment of safety. You've been wounded. You've taken a hit for your country. The chopper comes, the medevac comes. You are now a patient. The predation should stop here.
That is the rational assumption. But in a predatory state, vulnerability is just an opportunity for a different kind of extraction.
Miller was assigned to the medical battalion, the medbat. And reading his testimony, the medbat sounds less like a hospital and more like a bazaar, a marketplace.
It is a marketplace where the currency is human biology. Miller describes a system where the injury itself has no fixed objective value. The value is negotiated.
Okay, Miller describes two main scenarios here. Let's break them down. What's scenario A?
Scenario A is the purchase of a wound. A soldier has a light injury, maybe a scratch, a bad bruise, minor shrapnel. But under the state's compensation system, a heavy wound pays out 3 million rubles. A light wound pays only 1 million.
So there's a 2 million ruble difference riding on piece of paper signed by a doctor.
Exactly. So the soldier goes to the doctor or the medical officer and offers a bribe. Write me up as heavy and I'll give you a cut.
Mm-hmm.
It's insurance fraud, conducted in a field hospital during a war.
Okay, and what's scenario B?
Scenario B is pure extortion. This is the darker side. A soldier comes in with a legitimate, undeniable heavy wound. Maybe he has lost a limb. He is legally entitled to the 3 million rubles.
Right.
The medical staff looks at him and says, if you want this paperwork processed correctly as a heavy wound, you need to share a piece of that payout with us.
And if he refuses?
If he refuses, they can classify it as a light wound, or they can find a reason to deny the wound entirely. They'll write in the report you were careless or this is not a combat-related injury. They hold this compensation hostage.
So the doctor, the person meant to heal, stands between the soldier and the compensation he's owed for his injury. The state's entire injury compensation system is completely captured by the officers distributing it.
It is tariff logic all over again. Every single transaction, even the diagnosis of a shattered bone, has a tax attached to it, payable to the man in charge.
Miller also talks about the insane inflation inside this system, the prices of goods in the hospital. He talks about soldiers ordering food and alcohol to their beds.
This is the absurdity of a microeconomy and a completely closed system. You have these wounded soldiers. Miller calls them the 350 millionaire.
Why that name?
300 is the code for wounded. So they're the wounded millionaires. They're lying in their hospital beds. They've just received their massive payouts, but they cannot leave. They are trapped.
So the staff just bleeds them dry.
Completely. Miller describes nurses turning into geishas at night. He describes vodka delivery services running at 5,000 rubles a bottle. And he mentions soldiers ordering shashlik meat skewers for 30,000 rubles.
Wait. 30,000 rubles for shashlik? I mean, is this some kind of Michelin star meat being flown in from Moscow? What is going on?
It is pork on a skewer, cooked in a courtyard by a nurse who has realized she is sitting on a gold mine. The price is what the market will bear.
It's just absurd. You have these guys, maybe they're missing limbs, lying in a field hospital, ordering luxury catering.
It is the last meal psychology. These are the 350 millionaires.
Yeah.
They have the cash, the payout, right there on their phone.
Yeah.
But they know that as soon as that leg heals or the stump heals, they are going right back to the meat grinder to die.
So the money has no future value.
Zero. If you are certain you're going to die next Tuesday, 30,000 rubles for a kebab isn't expensive. It's a bargain. It's the only pleasure you have left in the world.
And the staff knows this. They are price gouging men who are effectively on death row.
That is the machine. It extracts the sign-up bonus. It extracts the combat pay. It extracts the wound payout. And then it extracts the final labor, which is the act of dying. It leaves nothing.
This feels like the right moment to synthesize this. We have Klesnikov's testimony from episode 1, and now we have Miller's testimony from this new investigation. They are different men, different ranks, different parts of the front, but the pattern is it's identical.
It is. We can construct a same logic list to connect these two separate investigations.
Let's do that. What is the first point of convergence? What's the first item on that list?
Point 1, tariff logic. In both investigations, life has a price. Survival is not a right. It is a purchased privilege.
It's a commodity.
Yes. Whether you are paying to avoid the zero line or paying to get your wound certified correctly, you are a customer in a store where the product is your own biology.
Okay, point 2.
Point 2, the blocked exit. Klesnikov described how any complaints to the military prosecutor were just intercepted and sent back to the commanders being complained about.
Right, which resulted in punishment.
Yes. And Miller describes a similar, even more sophisticated trap. He tried to help a soldier arrange a legal transfer out of a combat unit, a perfectly legal action. And what happened?
It triggered a counterintelligence trap. The special services set him up.
Exactly. He was accused of extortion himself, the very crime he was witnessing.
He was framed by the very system he was trying to navigate legally. He signed a confession to avoid prison, and that confession became the lever they used to control him.
The lesson is simple, and it's the same in both testimonies. You cannot use the law to escape the machine. The law is just another weapon used by the machine to keep you inside.
Point 3, euphemism as anesthesia.
We see this everywhere. Zeroing out hides murder. The call hides torture. The tariff hides extortion. The system cannot face its own reality, so it renames everything. It creates a new linguistic reality where crimes are simply administrative procedures.
And finally, point 4, the last item on the list.
Predation replaces duty. The officer class, as documented here, is not leading men into battle for the sake of the state's strategic objectives. They are managing a herd of livestock. They are harvesting that herd for personal profit.
And this leads us to the critical inference. This is the connection between the way the system treats its own soldiers and the way it treats civilians.
It is the most important conclusion of this deep dive. It's the core of the analysis.
Lay it out for us.
If the system treats its own contract, soldiers, volunteers, citizens of Russia, as biological ATMs to be robbed and liquidated, if it is willing to use grenades to blow up the bodies of its own men to hide a murder for a bank card PIN, then it will inevitably treat civilians in occupied territories as mere material, as objects.
There's no moral break. There's no line they won't cross.
There is no switch that flips. A commander who zeroes out his own sergeant for a PIN code does not suddenly become a humanitarian when he walks into a Ukrainian village. The administrative logic is total. The predation is total.
I want to touch on the motivation here because, from the outside, we hear a lot about ideology. We hear about denazification, about the defense of the motherland. Miller has a very, very clear view on this.
Miller is explicit. He says he saw maybe one fanatic in 10,000 men.
1 in 10,000.
Ideology is marginal. It is statistically zero. It is not a factor.
So why are they there? Why sign up for this?
Money. 99% are there for the money. Miller confirms this repeatedly.
But that's a huge transformation, isn't it? It means the army is no longer a regular army in the sense of a national institution bound by patriotism or duty.
It is an army of mercenaries.
But they're mercenaries who are being ripped off and killed by their own employers.
Correct. They are disposable mercenaries. Miller notes the survival statistic he witnessed. Of 100 men sent to an assault, only 10 to 20 return.
80 to 90% casualty rate.
The commanders know this. The soldiers know this. So the transaction becomes, I will trade my likely death for a large payout to my family. And the commander's transaction is, I will steal that payout before you die.
It's the end of the regular army. That's a heavy concept.
It is an inference we must make from the available documentation. When the primary motivator is financial, and the primary internal mechanic is theft and murder for profit, you do not have an army. You have an armed gang. The soldiers are not comrades in arms. They are bounty trophies for their commanders.
This brings us to the psychological operations layer. Because sitting here reading these documents, it all seems so obvious. It's so brutal, so clear. And yet this reality is largely hidden from, or at least rejected by, many in the Western audience.
It is hidden by design. We discussed the cultural shield in the previous episode, the idea that the glory of Russian culture, the ballet, the literature, protects the state apparatus from scrutiny.
Right.
But there is a more active mechanism at work here. We can call it weaponized normalcy.
I want to pause and talk to you, the person listening right now, because if you scroll through TikTok or YouTube Shorts or X, you have seen this content. You've seen the Moscow at night 4K drone shot.
Beautiful footage.
Absolutely stunning. You've seen the vloggers going to the grocery stores in St. Petersburg, showing off the full shelves. They say, look, no sanctions here. Look how clean the streets are. Life is normal.
It is very seductive content.
It is. It's powerful. It makes you feel like maybe the Western media is lying. Maybe Russia's just a normal place that is being misunderstood.
That is the weapon. That feeling of doubt. That is the payload of the psychological operation.
So how do we reconcile that? Because the streets are clean, the shelves are full. Miller isn't denying that. This documentation doesn't deny that.
We reconcile it by understanding that the clean street is purchased by the dirty basement. The prosperity of the center is financed by the predation on the periphery.
It's the Hunger Games.
It is exactly that model. The capital's beautiful, the capital has high fashion and incredible food, but the capital exists only because it extracts blood and life from the districts. Miller is showing us life in the districts. The normal life footage does not cancel the documented mechanics of murder. A clean metro station does not neutralize the systematic torture in a basement.
And we can see this moral fog, this disconnect, even in Oleg Miller himself, can't we?
That is a very important point. Let's apply the missing sentence test to his interview. Listen very closely to what he does not say.
Okay, I'm listening. What's missing?
Does Oleg Miller say the bloodshed must stop?
No.
Does he condemn the targeting of civilians? When asked directly about war crimes against Ukrainians, his answer is, I don't know. He says he didn't see it.
He deflects.
Does he say Russia must end the war?
No, he doesn't. So what is he angry about? What is his core complaint?
He is angry about corruption. He is moralizing against the theft, not the aggression. He is upset that the system is stealing from soldiers, not that the system is destroying Ukraine.
That is a crucial, crucial distinction.
It is functional. It reveals that even those fleeing the system are products of it. Mueller is not a pacifist. He's not a peace activist. He's a disgruntled employee of the violence factory.
He left because the factory started cheating him on his paycheck.
Not because the factory was making murder. This omission, this missing sentence, tells us that the moral rot goes all the way down. The cultural shield has worked, even on him.
So we had to look past the surface. And you listening, you might see these videos of normal life in Moscow. You might see very articulate arguments online about geopolitical security.
But that normal life footage does not cancel these documented mechanics. A clean metro station does not neutralize the systematic torture in the basement. Cultural heritage does not erase the administrative apparatus of the zeroing out.
No insults, no emotion, just the cold, hard juxtaposition of facts.
Precisely.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a recommendation. It's not a document this time, it's a film.
Yes.
The film is called East-West, and it was released in 1999.
And we must state this very clearly. This film was made before Putin came to power. It is not evidence of current crimes.
No, it's not.
It is a structural illustration, a cultural mirror.
It tells the story of Russian émigrés returning to the Soviet Union right after World War II. They're lured by this promise of home, of rebuilding the motherland.
And it depicts the trap, the recruitment illusion versus the brutal reality of the closed system they walk into.
It mirrors Oleg Miller's shock exactly.
Yeah.
He returned to the army expecting the motherland, and he found a prison. He found a system that wanted to consume him whole.
It is a perfect illustration of the mechanics we've discussed today. The logic of the closed predatory system is, unfortunately, timeless.
Modern propaganda does not deny violence.
It reframes it.
It displaces it.
It moves the camera.
The machine remains. End of deep dive.